everyone, this is Mindy Eggen for Fawn and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be creating a camping theme platform pop-up. I'm going to start off by my Copic coloring. Here on some 80-pound white cardstock, I stamped out images from S'more the Merrier, Yeti or Not, and Merry Mice stamp sets in the Fawn jet black ink. So most of this is from S'more the Merrier, but I do have some trees from the Merry Mice and Yeti or Not. So that's where the trees came from. As always, I will have my Copic colors listed at the top of the screen here for you as I go along. Some of them I reused throughout the images, so I didn't list those, and I'll just kind of let you know when I reuse the colors. So for my box, I have some reddish browns, and then for the face and the belly, now there isn't really a line for the belly. I kind of added that myself, so I modified that a little. I did use some of the E43, 42, and 41s, and it gave it more of a brownish look than I wanted, but I'm going to kind of imagine that it's just because it's dark outside. Then for the owl, I have E79, 77, and 74, and this is a color combination that I do reuse in some of the other images. And then I used E53, 51, and 50 for the belly of the owl, and I also used that color combination for my little hedgehog. I added a little bit of orange for the feet and the beak. And then I'm going to move on to coloring my campfire. So I did this in 3 different kind of color variations. I have yellows, orange, and then a dab of red for the center of the campfire. Now you don't have to use 3 colors. That is just my personal preference and kind of my habit of when I started Copic coloring was using at least a 3 color combination. If you don't have all the colors or you don't like using that many markers, just take a look at maybe what I did use and pick and choose. Maybe you want the darkest of it and then the medium tone or the mid tone. So even though I use 3, you don't have to. You can kind of just pick and choose out of that color combination. The rest of the coloring gets pretty simplified. For instance, my chocolate bar, I didn't really do a ton of shading to it, maybe just to one part of the wrapper. And then I used a light gray for the foil part of the wrapper. Then I'll move on to my graham cracker box. So the centerpiece I did in some yellows, and then the outside piece I'm going to use, or the rest of the box, I'll use in some blues. Now this is one where it's a pretty small area, so you don't have to use those 3 colors. Maybe you just want to use the B16 and B14. On to my s'more. I'm reusing some of the browns that I just have laying around on my desk from coloring the critters. And I personally like my marshmallows lightly toasted, so I just added an E42 just to the very bottom of my marshmallows. Here I'm reusing that blue color combination for my marshmallow bag and then bringing in a C2 just lightly on one side to give it a little bit of dimension to the bag of marshmallows. Once again, for my guitar, I'm reusing some of my browns that I have on my desk. It really doesn't matter to me as long as I have a light and a dark. That is pretty much what I look for to just kind of define that a little bit more. I used 2 shades of brown for my tree trunks, adding a shadow on one side and then just blending that out with my lightest color. And then I'm going to just color one of the rocks on screen. The rest of it I did off screen just to save a little bit of time, but I used some cool grays for that. And now for my trees, I am trying a completely different color combination than I would normally do. I have BG 99, 96, and 93. Normally I go with more of a bright yellowish green, but I thought these were really more outdoorsy, especially for my dark camping scene that I'll be creating. Once everything is colored in, I will take the coordinating dies, line them all up, and die cut them out and set them off on the side. Now here are the pieces for my platform pop-up. I die cut the main piece out of noble fir. You need 2 of those. My background piece I did out of peacock cardstock, and then I did some grass out of noble fir as well. And then I needed 3 of those T-shaped pieces. For ink blending my sky, I'm starting off with Blueprint Sketch Distress Oxide ink, starting at the top and working my way down, kind of leaving that highlight of the peacock cardstock. Then I'm going to bring in Chipped Sapphire, working my way down, and I will bring in my previous color just to kind of help smooth out the transition of the colors. I wanted this a little bit more dark, or to look like more of the dark nighttime scene. So now I'm bringing in Black Soot Distress Oxide ink and going around the very outer edges. Once again, I'll just bring in my previous blending tools to kind of help smooth that out. Now I have Distress Spray Stain in Picket Fence. I added a little bit to my work surface with a drop of water, and then I'm picking that up with my paintbrush, and I'm going to flick this all over the background to give the look of stars. Bringing in my main platform pieces, I'm masking off part of that platform. So this is just going to be the base that goes around my platform, and I'm lightly ink blending on some black soot. I kind of wish I would have just die cut grass and added grass to the bottom to give it more of that scene look, but I just went with black soot for right now to add some of that dark color to the bottom, and I did that to both pieces. I'm also going to bring in those little cuts of grass. So these are going to go in my platform. This is what my critters are going to be attached to and popping up. So adding a little bit of that black soot to those as well. Now we have our 3 T pieces, and they have scored lines on the bottom of them. On one of them, I'm going to just trim right across that score line because we won't need that. Then I'm going to take some liquid glue and add it to the top of those T pieces and attach my grass to this. And this is what my critters are going to be attached to. So I flipped my grass over and then just flipped that T piece over to attach them. You could use double-sided tape if you want to have a little bit more adhesion, but I find that the liquid glue worked fine. Now, when I had die cut these main platform pieces or our bases, they have these score lines on them. So I'm just going to fold along each of those score lines, making sure that they're straight. Sometimes when I'd fold it, I'd get a little crooked. So I just want to make sure that they're all straight and lined up, and I'll reinforce those folds with my bone folder to make sure that they're nice and crisp. I'll repeat these steps for my other piece that's going to be my base as well. Once I have all of my lines folded and scored, I'm going to bring in my double-sided 1/4 inch tape. I'm going to add a little piece to this flap that's right above that slot. I'll do that to both of my pieces here. And then we're going to bring in those T pieces. Now, one of them we cut that along that score line, but the other 2 still have that score line. We are going to take this 1/4 inch tape and add it under that score line. So right at the very bottom on my white piece. Now, I did my assembly of this a little different than what is in the intro video, so you can always go over and check out the intro video for Kelly's way of doing it. I wanted to try this because I had a hard time getting my critters and everything onto my grass once the box was put together. So I went ahead and I figured out what I wanted where, and then just used some tape runner or liquid glue to attach everything. So I kind of completed my scene ahead of time, just adding them to those grass, and I had planned out what I wanted in the front and which characters I wanted in the back. Okay, so now to put our platform pop-up box together. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab one of those T pieces with my critters, and I'm going to put it through that slot. Now, my critters were hanging down just a little bit too far, so I'm going to trim off the very bottom there. No one's going to see it. And then I can slide this back into that slot. I want to make sure that that T is flush. So I'm going to kind of pull on that tab a little bit. Notice that I just flipped it down so it's face down on my craft mat. Then I'm going to fold that up a little bit. And I have that T piece there. So that bottom small square, I remove the backing of it, make sure that my everything is flush. And then I could adhere that small piece down. And I folded it up just to make sure it was all fitting right. Then I can bring this bigger tab out, remove the backing of the adhesive, and fold that over. So 1/2 of my platform is complete. Now I'm going to move on to this second one, just kind of double checking to make sure everything is lining up. Once again, I'm going to make sure that that is flush, and then I can remove the backing on my small tab there and just push that down, and I'll remove the backing of that larger tab right above it and fold my piece over. So like I stated earlier, this is a little bit different way of putting it together. Still all comes out the same. So if you want to check out another version, be sure to check out that intro video. Now for my fire, so this is the middle piece. This is the piece we cut that bottom portion off. I added double-sided tape to my white piece there, which is going to get hidden. And I'm lining this up with the top of my platform, or where everything else, my other grass pieces are. And then I could adhere that. So this is going to be right in the middle. Then I'm going to go over that with some more double-sided tape, and this is what's going to attach our 2 box pieces together afterwards. I'm also adding some of that double-sided tape to these small tabs. Now that we have all of our adhesive on, I'm going to put these 2 pieces right next to each other. So I have a tab there, and I'm going to butt the other one up right next to it When I remove the backing, I can just fold that over. So you just want to make sure that they're flush all the way across the bottom there so it lines up straight. And you can see how this is starting to form. Now I'm going to remove the backing of those inside pieces so that these two attach, and also that backing from the tab on the other side. And then you just fold these over. Make sure you tuck that tab in so it attaches. So here now everything is attached and my platform is complete. Now, using the background that I created earlier, I am going to fold along those score lines, just kind of reinforcing that fold with my bone folder. I'm going to trim off any of the excess pieces of the tree that are hanging off, and then I'm going to bring in my 1/8 of an inch score tape and line it at the very bottom on the back. Once I have that on there, I'm going to remove the backing and I'm going to just place this right in the back of my platform pop-up. So it tucks down right into the box. It just lines up perfectly. Using the double-sided tape really helps because that is a super strong adhesive and that's going to hold together really well. I'm just using my fingers to kind of push that so it attaches to the background. Now the last thing I need to do is just add a sentiment. So I die cut this panel, this stitched panel out of white cardstock, and I think this is either part of the platform pop-up or the add-on. And I am using a sentiment off of the More the Merrier stamp set. Now I did stamp each line separately because I just felt it was a lot easier to line it up and make sure it was all straight. And I'm stamping it in walnut ink. I just thought the dark brown really worked well with kind of my s'more theme and my camping theme. I'll add some tape runner to the back of that and I'm going to place that on the front of my card. Now what I like is you can always fold that pop-up box down so you could really push that sentiment down and make sure it is attached. Now I've seen some people where they might put maybe, like for instance in my card, the noble fur on that background piece if they wanted to hide that they were two separate colors. I'm totally okay with that being that dark blue in the back because that's not the focus of my card. My focus of the card is my scene that I have completely completed. But that is totally an option if you wanted to give the back of your platform pop-up a more finished look. So now we have this really cute camping scene that you can fold up and fit into an envelope, and then it just pops up to create this adorable camping scene. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you again soon.